All right, let me show you where your fuel pressure regulator is on your 2000 Ford Ranger with the 4.0 or this Mazda B4000 with the 4.0. Same engine. Most people think your fuel pressure regulator is right there, right here with the vacuum line hooked up to it. No, 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 no. This is where the fuel comes in, and that is your fuel pressure pulsation dampener, they'll call it. Fuel pressure pulsation damper. And that's a special order part, so be careful with the O-ring and everything on that. Now, let's go over to the bench and I'll explain a little bit more about the fuel system. Okay, so this is kind of important. This is the inline fuel filter. And these connections only go on one way. This is 3/8, this is 5/16, so you're not going to get them mixed up, so don't worry about that. But what happens is if there's too much pressure in the line, if there's too much pressure in the fuel system, because the pump continuously runs, it's not computer controlled, it can actually backflow back to the tank. Here's that fuel filter I was talking about with the fuel line, and then the one line going to the engine right there. Okay, so this is the line that's actually going to return. Okay, like I said, it'll bypass it real quick if there's too much fuel pressure and go on back. Now, the whole debate over the whole fuel pressure regulator and where is it and what the heck's going on. Well, here's your fuel pump assembly. That there, I had a pointing thing, is your fuel pressure regulator. So let me set this camera down and I'll explain that and we can diagnose it a little bit. Okay, so like I said, here's that inline fuel filter. This is going to the engine. As you can see, the flow there. And this is the high pressure side. Here's the low pressure side. And this low pressure line, okay, this is going to come and it is going to lead to this line here on the fuel pump. This top fitting here. So it can actually flow back through this guy, through your fuel pressure regulator right here and back into the tank. If it didn't have this, it would run at about 120 PSI. Don't ask me how I know. Now, how you can diagnose these real quick, I guess, or to show you their function is, oh man, where's that one? So, the fuel pump's pumping, right? I'm gonna go in, like I said, this is on the return line, if you will. This is a return style system, it's not returnless. And I'm going to put pressure into that line, but if you notice, look, there's no fuel pressure regulator installed on here from the factory. You can hear it just coming right out. It's not built, it's just letting it free flow through there, right? So the garden hose is always open. There is no shut off. Now a good fuel pressure regulator, I'll go into the same return line here, and if you notice when I pump this fella up, she's got some pressure, right? It's still not letting me get through all the way up. It's probably, the breaking point is probably, oh, I don't know, well above 60, I would assume. I don't know. I think idle is at 35 on this truck. But anyways, it's hard. I just put this fuel pump in and I just didn't check. I flipped everything else over. I got a complete assembly here, and it did not come with the fuel pressure regulator, and that's where it is. And I'm not cutting into that and trying to flip them from here over to here. Just get a new fuel pump. That's why I do these modules. This is why I don't do aftermarket ones either. I always do OEM, because you run into stuff like this all the time. So, hopefully that made sense. So, catch you on the next one. Oh yeah, so if it's bad, right, and this was bad, I was only getting about, oh, I don't know, 5 PSI up to the rail with the new pump. Before I was getting 0, but all right, I was getting 5. I was like, what the heck? Well, what happens is is the fuel is pumping. The fuel is pumping through this filter, right? It's going in, but it's got an escape route right here, right? So it's just going to go to path of least resistance, come right out this open garden hose here. So I was only getting about 10 psi up to the engine. What I did is I took off the return line here to the fuel filter, pinched it, dead head of the engine. I got 150 psi up there, showing that it was a defective fuel pressure regulator. You could also see it was going when you had the fuel pressure reader, I can't think of the word, hooked up into the Schrader valve. It was going from like 5 to 0 or 10 to 0, so it was leaking. So I'm like, is it the injectors? Is it this? Is it that? Well, here's how you can kind of check the fuel pressure regulator, where it is, how it works on this truck. So there you go. Oh, I need to swap this fuel tank pressure sensor over here before I forget it and take it back to the parts store. It was a hard sell telling them that this mechanical pressure regulator, hopefully I'm getting all this terminology right, but telling them that this pressure regulator was faulty. They're like, what are you talking about? This has never happened before. Well, somebody didn't install it from the factory, which is pretty cool. And it was supposed to come with one. We verified it, we looked at pictures, supposed to come with one. I deal with the guys a lot, so it's all good. But all right, I think that will do it. See ya. Explain one more thing. Here's that return line here. Comes in, goes through here, goes to the fuel pressure regulator. So when it's seeing like 20 psi, whatever, it's fine. It's going to stay closed. But if it starts creeping up, then it's going to open to let the fuel bypass through, so the system pressure stays low, not 120.